Tanzania to Tech, bonjour. And if you are in Sweden, good dog. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2024 and my first Substack podcast of this new and beautiful year. I wish all of you a smooth transition into 2024 and with focus on whatever it is that you want to bring more of into your life and into the world. And so on this Substack, we focus on healing and different modalities and living a good life in relationship to our loved ones and to the land and to our spiritual being. So I'm very happy to have a special guest from Sweden with me today, Christina Löwenborg. She will introduce herself, and she is well practiced in the world of therapies and clinical supervision. And I'm just so delighted to have Christina here with me today. So I am on the unceded lands of the Coast Salish near the Qualicum Nation here on Vancouver Island. So happy to be with you all. So welcome, Christina.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are and what kind of things you do?
I will. I'm delighted to be with you here. And I tell you, I present myself a little first.
Sure.
My name is Christina Löwenborg, and I'm living in Sweden. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and working also with groups as a supervisor. And I have prepared something for you and want to show you how I work with a case.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some pictures I want to show you how you can work with the way I'm working. I have a concept that is based on Schematherapy together with taping, and that's two different ways of working, but it's working very well together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really excited to hear about it. And just to say, I'm quite involved in different counseling and healing communities here. And I don't hear talk of schematherapy or taping very often. So you'll have to tell us what it is and maybe to start with who you use it with, because I understand you can use it in supervision as well as with families
Yeah,
or individuals. And
yeah.
uh, yeah, other.
It's a very broad model. You can work in different areas with it. I
Mhm.
use it nearly almost when I work. I use it with individuals, with couples, in group with professionals when I'm working with supervision. So nearly always as part of the session or maybe the whole session. It depends, but almost.
Mhm. Yeah, so multiple uses. And
Yeah,
I myself am getting more involved with expressive therapies. I've been doing some work with a drama therapist, and I sometimes supervise art therapists who tend to work well with everyone, but a lot with children. And what really moved me about this approach is that you're working with little figurines, and it is very playful and very
yeah.
creative. And it could also be looked at as a projection exercise
Mm.
to a certain degree, because I've had this beautiful experience of working with children and asking a question and they don't answer, they say nothing, but then I put a puppet on my hand and start engaging and they will talk
Mm.
to the puppet. So it's just an interesting way to help people feel more freedom to express themselves through a third party or third modality. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
jump in. Yeah. What do you want to tell
Okay.
me
Yeah.
about
Okay. Okay. So are you ready for the case?
it? Sure. So Christina's going to share a case study about
Yeah,
a little guy named, oh, not little guy, about a young man named Benjamin.
yeah.
And we're just waiting for her to share the screen
See
here
if we,
to start
yeah,
the presentation.
see if we can get this work. The technique isn't with me, really.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I'll just say a word while you're figuring that Christina and I
Yeah,
have been collaborating over the years in different ways. We've written a few articles together. We did a lot of work around reflecting teams, uh, also here in Canada with some Indigenous families and workers, and so this is part of an ongoing, probably lifelong collaboration. So here it is, the case of
I
Benjamin.
really, I really hope so. Here
Yeah.
is the case. The case Benjamin. And Benjamin, he is a young man looking forward to talk about his life status. He wants to make a change in the relationship with his mother. And the therapist here introducing taping material. A taping material is a material that is tangible, visual, and you can work with figures and symbols on the table, on a scene, and you can move and you can change the scenery when you talk. In this case, the therapist introduces the taping material and asks Benjamin to show the things that have been important in his background, as well as any influences that he would like the therapist to be aware of. Benjamin uses the tangible material to construct several scenarios on the table in order to illustrate several important checkpoints and events in his life. The taping material comprises a number of different parts. So there is a stage to set the borders of where the narrative takes place, different figures to stand in for actual people, symbols to represent emotions, and details that can be linked to the situation with a view to increasing understanding. This is the first picture.
Mhm.
Benjamin, he grew up in a family in the South Europe with a mother, a father, and an older sister. The father dominated the family and was given to bursts of aggression linked to alcohol consumption. Heated arguments and raised voices were common in their home. Benjamin's mother tried to protect his big sister, who was regularly a trigger for the conflicts. As he was only young, Benjamin was usually forgotten in the conflict situations.
Mhm.
You can see he's standing behind the fence. No one seemed to understand how the situation was affecting him. His father was an alcoholic, and many of the arguments were the result of jealousy. Benjamin shows and tells at the same time his father was violent and aggressive, and Benjamin uses a ghost figure to symbolize the fear that he and the rest of the family felt. In the visual representation, the father is coming out from his own world. The mother is attempting to shield Benjamin's sister, and Benjamin is standing behind a fence. He's scared. Benjamin explains how he builds up a wall of cuddly animals on his bed to protect him because no one came to comfort and protect him.
Mhm.
The situation deeply influenced Benjamin during his childhood. Fear of conflicts that degenerated into rose and sadness that no one could see he needed comfort and protection. Fear and lack of protection and boundaries are factors that affected Benjamin during his childhood.
Mm-hmm. Can I offer a reflection here? I love
Yes,
it.
please.
It's so evocative how he picks this phantom, scary figure to represent his father, and the
Yeah,
fences, the barriers that people put up to protect themselves. You can see him
yeah.
hiding behind something, and it's so beautiful that you talked about the wall of teddy bears in his
Mm,
bed to protect him. So this really draws out the importance of looking at social interaction and what everyone is doing and the movement. I think that's so important because people become proud and aware of what they were doing, not just not just what they were thinking or what was wrong with them. So
mm,
from a response-based point of view, one thing that interested me was this idea that the sister sometimes provoked the violence. And if we, in a different time and place, I'd be interested to know, what she was thinking, because sometimes children will do that, or people will do that to get it over with, or to have some control,
yeah,
timing of it.
yeah,
But I just love the movement here, and you can see the protection right away, how he tried to protect his sister, but also
yeah,
later on, sometimes when we learn that Benjamin and people like him, young ones, also try to protect their mother, and sometimes they even try to protect their father, like from other people's judgment. And so already there's so much coming out for me. It's very
mhm,
rich. Should we go to the
mm.
next slide? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So now he had placed a little rabbit beside himself as a symbol for his fear. All he wanted was that be protected. So now we are clarifying the wounds.
Mhm.
This is his childhood. This is his wounds from his childhood.
Mhm. And it's so interesting how the father used his anger to
Yeah,
terrorize people when he's really using violence, but in a way he can cloak it as, I'm angry and I will yell and I want to scare you and I can hurt you. Um, Whereas we don't know, like, what he's thinking. Is he trying to terrorize people and have control of the family, or does he feel like or like what kind of um explanations does he use? That's another thing that I'm curious about.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we'll stay with the story here, and Benjamin wanting protection, and he's got this
yeah,
little adorable rabbit that he's chosen to be his
mm,
ally, I'll say.
yeah, yeah. So let's take a jump
Mhm.
to Benjamin's teenage years. So this is another checkpoint. He shows the therapist. So Benjamin reorganized the stage. His mother, she meets a new man and seeks refuge with him in another country. Benjamin goes with his mother, and brother and sister are separated. His sister, who now has substance abuse issues, stays with her father. Or Benjamin finds himself in a new country where they speak a foreign language.
Mhm.
He feels different. He has been ripped out of his old life and didn't have time to say goodbye to his friends. His mother is fully immersed in her new relationship, and Benjamin feels different in the new context. He feels excluded and alone.
Hmm. It's so amazing, these props. So, right, what we see Eeyore,
Mhm.
he was always sad, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's so much contextual information there. The love heart, and then you see this pipe. That's amazing. You
yeah,
have a pipe, but it's important and interesting
it
that
is.
the daughter, uh, or Benjamin's sister went with the father.
Mm.
That's another whole story that we
Mm.
can't
It
learn
is.
about today, but very interesting. So here he is in a new environment, feeling very lonely and having to deal with a language barrier, right?
Yeah, it's certainly alone.
Mhm,
Benjamin uses the tabletop stage to demonstrate how the situation has changed. So he tells and describes and shows at the same time. A fence represents the international border. A hash pipe symbolizes assisted substance abuse. And in the center of the image stands his mother with her new partner. Benjamin stands off to one side and he has chooses a sad symbol to illustrate how the situation feels for him. In this visual representation, Benjamin stands with his back to the other people. He feels alone, he feels overlooked again, and his teenage years were marked by breakups and loneliness.
mhm, mhm,
So now we have a new checkpoint. The narrative now jumps forward again, and Benjamin uses figures and symbols to remodel the scene. Benjamin is now a young adult man. He's about the 20s. He's a student and has met a partner. On the tabletop stage, he now stands facing his partner. His mother has separated from her new husband and is living on her own in a different town. His mother is trying to make contact with Benjamin, and he views her as intrusive.
mhm,
Benjamin avoids his mother's attempts to get in touch, and he simply lets the phone ring when she calls.
mhm,
Benjamin chooses a bull to represent his mother's intrusive side.
mhm,
The fence symbolizes the isolation in their communication, while the ostrich is used as a symbol for Benjamin's way of dealing with the situation,
mhm,
just like an ostrich. Benjamin chooses to bury his head in the sand. He becomes evasive.
mhm. So, did you have the sense, or am I just projecting, that in response to the past situation, the mother going with a new lover, new partner, and he had to spend lots of time alone, that
Yeah,
became a way that he got used to
yeah,
relying on himself. And so
mm,
now he's not comfortable when people are suddenly wanting to come into his space too much, and I don't know what they do, tell him what to do or be his friend.
mm,
Is that
yeah,
something you were thinking? What were you thinking
yeah,
when you saw this? Yeah.
yeah. He's unused to other people who wants to know him and to be with him. And his mother is um, rather, he described her in different scenes as very intrusive.
Mhm,
She needs him, she wants him close, and sometimes she avoids him when she is in another relationship with another.
mhm. And what could you say about Benjamin and his new partner around
Hmm.
her reaching
Yeah.
to him?
So this is the partner that he had when he was in therapy. And at this point, there were a new relationship, and he wanted to focus on his life with her and his mother. You can see she's knocking on the door all the time and said, "Hello, hello, I'm here. See me."
Uh-huh.
And he felt a lot of guilt.
So when he's saying she is too much, is he referring to his mother? He's
Yeah,
speaking to his
yeah. He's speaking to his mother. Yeah, he's speaking to his mother.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay.
So I go further.
Yes.
This is what Benjamin is afraid of if he answering the phone. Benjamin's evasion serves a form of protection for him.
Mhm.
He's scared of being ambushed by feelings of guilt if he lets his mother into his life again.
Mhm.
He's scared that her needs and lack of boundaries will take over. In this image, he illustrates what he's afraid of by lowering the protection between himself and his mother. The figure that represents himself has now fallen down, and next to him stands Eeyore, the figure symbolizing the heavy, dejected, and sorrowful emotions.
Mhm.
This is what I'm afraid of would happen if I let my mother into my life again. I lose sight of myself.
Mhm. What an image. So we have an expression in English, he was floored when you
Yeah, yeah,
on the
yeah,
floor, and you
yeah,
that
yeah,
he feels
yeah, really.
floored when she comes in.
It's
Yeah,
raw.
yeah. And interesting because when you think back to childhood, he was the youngest, and
Yeah,
he was pushed to the sidelines of all the drama, the interaction, and felt quite neglected and overlooked. And,
mm,
and now he's taking so much responsibility for the
yeah.
mother's loneliness and unhappiness.
He really does.
Yeah.
Mm. He really does. And in this moment, he has difficulties to protect himself.
Mhm.
He has always been there for her.
Mhm. And now that's
So
making him feel uncomfortable. He wants to focus on his own life and keep
his
his
own life.
sense of,
Yeah,
I guess, like
yeah, yeah,
balance and
yeah,
focus. Yeah.
yeah. And now he has a partner and he has a new chance, a new situation in his life.
Mhm.
Mhm. So Benjamin needs to change his situation from feeling dejected and run over to feeling that he has the right to have his own life, his own emotional needs, a healthy relationship with a partner, and to be able to set boundaries for his mother who is intruding in his life. So using the materials, Benjamin shows what his ideal situation would look like. He's
Mhm.
standing straight backed, looking directly at his partner and his adult life. He places a heart between himself and his partner. He chooses two emotion symbols for himself. One symbolizes setting boundaries. It represents a figure that says stop to his mother. The other figure symbolizes a healthy adult side, signaling that it is important to take care of his own emotional needs.
Mhm.
This visual represent, yeah,
Yeah, sorry. This black figure with what
yeah,
looks like a musical instrument. I
yeah,
don't know. What do you think of that?
yeah. It's a nice, it's a warm symbol, a mother symbol.
Hmm.
So he chooses it for that he wants to be nice to himself. He wants to take care of himself.
Nice. Self-nurturing. And
Yeah, yeah.
this brings up the idea of agency. You know, we can't control everything in the world. We can't control everything in our community or our town, but we have room to move in between certain parameters to kind of construct or create the life that we want. And he is really trying to step into that and use his agency in the areas that he can influence to create a healthy and happy life for himself. Would you agree?
I would agree, certainly. Mm. Mm. So this visual representation is the last in the series of what Benjamin considers to have affected him during his life. He has a desire to have a healthy relationship with his mother and with his partner, or listening to his own emotion and underlying needs, and daring to act on what basis would prove crucial in the process of going forward. Together, Benjamin and the therapist work to play out situations that generated feelings of fear and sorrow. So they have also examined new ways to handle the situation. They have done so on the table with dramatic figures and emotion symbols, and in the form of psychodramatic representation on the floor with chairs and role reversal. And they have also worked with visualizations based on key scenes from his life. In this way, unexpressed feelings and thoughts could be put into words. The different way of working all includes both cognitive process and emotional activation and a behavioral change in a form of action.
So I imagine through the visualizations and the role plays, he was practicing setting a new
Yeah.
boundary with his mother. How much hope did you have, say, at the beginning of that process, that the mother would respond and readjust her style of interaction so that she could be in his life, but taking some of the feedback in a mature way without getting too hurt?
Yeah, I show you. He is there is exciting things that are happened with him during this episode in his life. So I show you how they were working because during this visualization, Benjamin is working with a situation that played out during the teenage years. He was sitting in the room when the mother bursts and expresses her concern that Benjamin is strange. She is worried about his sexuality and that her son is going to follow in her father's footsteps. So she said to him during the visualization, "You will end up like your father. You will treat women badly," she shouts. And Benjamin felt ashamed. He can neither defend himself or set boundaries for his mother. He capitulates, stays sitting on the bed, and feels worthless. So this is during a visualization. So in this case, the therapist asks to participate in the situation that has arisen and to enter into the scene. So she tells Benjamin's mother that she needs to respect his boundaries and to deal with her concern herself. Her inner unease has nothing to do with Benjamin. She cannot simply burst into his room and act so respectless. So the therapists asked Benjamin's mother to leave the room and let him be. And afterwards, the therapist asks, "How do you feel now, Benjamin?" And Benjamin replied, "It feels really good to have someone defend me. I'm not used to that." Benjamin himself tried to set boundaries after that for his mother in different situations. Oops, now it's happening things here. So this is another picture from his childhood with his father, who was violent, abusive, and his mother that calculated she couldn't protect Benjamin. Benjamin was scared and tried to hide. On one occasion, Benjamin arrives for a session and wants to talk about something important that has happened. Benjamin uses the taping material. He and his girlfriend has been to visit his mother over the weekend. And then it looks like this. And an incident occurred on the Saturday, which Benjamin wants to illustrate. On the Saturday night, Benjamin and his girlfriend heard an argument break and between his mother and her new husband. And he was screaming, "I think you are disgusting when you're drunk." "Please don't say that," his mother sounds sad and afraid. Benjamin and his girlfriend are afraid and they don't know how to react. Benjamin uses the visual representation to illustrate how the husband launches a verbal attack. He uses a cannon to symbolize his aggressiveness. And the mother figure is lying down, defenseless and dejected. There are some bottles in the image to indicate that they were both drunk. Benjamin and his girlfriend are behind the fence in another room. The emotional figures in the form of rabbits symbolizes fear during the incident. "I'm scared. Let's lock ourselves in the room," said Benjamin. "Oh, how unpleasant. I'm scared too. Let's get away from here," replies his girlfriend. So one side of Benjamin is absolutely terrified. This is a situation and a feeling he recognizes from his childhood. But there is another side to him too, one that is thinking, "This isn't right. We shouldn't need to hide and run away." Benjamin displays his fear using the emotion symbol in form of a rabbit and his thought about being an unjust situation in the form of a big, strong bear. Benjamin decides to do things differently. Benjamin goes out to the husband and says, "Get out of our house. Just go away." The man seems shocked to encounter opposition and answers in surprise, "I can't even stand to be here," and leaves the house.
Mhm.
And Benjamin shouted after him, "And don't you ever come back." Benjamin feels both relieved and empowered in a new situation, which reminds him of so many previous ones. He has acted in a different way. He has tapped into his anger to protect his territory. He has set boundaries and made the situation secure. Benjamin is satisfied. Satisfaction is a form of joy, a feeling that is linked with safety and security, and which has to do with the absence of unease.
Mhm.
Benjamin has now created peace and calm both within and outside him.
He's channeling his inner grizzly.
It is, it is.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
continue. Oh,
yeah. The images, they're so evocative, aren't they? You see this other patriarchal figure taking his alcohol and leaving, uh,
yeah,
put in control the situation, and this younger man coming into himself and being brave and
yeah,
strong spirited and
mhm,
becoming the protector that he never had. But
yeah,
I could also see, going back a few slides, that because you, as the therapist, played
mm,
the role of an ally and a
mm,
protector, he called
yeah,
it defender. No one ever
yeah.
defended me. Um,
No,
it helped
mm,
him to feel stronger that he could maybe do that for other people and himself.
yeah, exactly what I think.
Mhm.
Exactly what I think. Do you want to know how it ends?
Yes, of course.
In the days that follows, his mother is both scared and angry about how the episode concluded. She feels abandoned and alone, and she turns her anger on her son.
Mhm,
The figures in their visual representation illustrate both fear and anger.
mhm,
"Now he's going to leave me, and it's all your fault," says Benjamin's mother. Benjamin now has access to his healthy adult side, represent on the tabletop stage with a large beer. Benjamin thinks, "Yes, that is exactly how I've felt. This is how it's always been." This understanding gives him both a sense of calm and some perspective on the situation.
yeah, and what is in the background is that we need to hold the perpetrators of violence accountable for their own behavior, and that
Yeah.
guy could have um, sent an apology and a promise to
Mm,
never do it again and a promise to go to a men's treatment center, or
yeah.
like, he could do lots of things, and it's his
Mm,
fault. But in the moment, we don't the
mm,
humans don't always put the responsibility where it should be, right?
yeah. Exactly. Mm, mm. So now, when Benjamin is looking at the situation, um, he makes a visual representation of both the past and the present at the same time. So in this picture, he shows both his father and the new man that he was confronting. He can clearly see how the pattern is repeating itself.
Hmm.
The aggressive and violent men, who have been played roles in various family constellations. His mother, who was unable to protect him, and Benjamin himself, who has felt afraid both as a child and as a young adult. I feel that this situation where I was able to set boundaries for myself marks a turning point, he says, in my life. I have gained greater access to my inner healthy adult side, which can guide me and to make choices that better accommodate with my emotional needs.
Mm-hmm. Can I just comment on that picture before we go?
Sure.
Such a
Yeah.
beautiful representation over here on my left of the patriarchy. These two men are actually holding hands. They're in cahoots.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
force that makes
Mm.
women
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I just want to be loved. I'll put up with anything
Yeah.
because I'm so afraid that no one will love me." And this is all part of a
Mm.
patriarchal
Mm.
world. And so empowerment changes the situation, as you're going to show us in the next slide.
Yeah. So here comes the last picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So in conclusion, Benjamin creates a visual representation of himself and his healthy, self-compassionate adult side, which takes care of his own needs for protection and security. This is the picture he wants to remember. And in this situation, he picks up his camera and take a picture and says, I want to remember this.
That's really beautiful, really
Mm.
touching, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what you can read into this is also he's rejecting that other kind of toxic masculinity. He wants to be a loving man with his partner. He wants to keep the fence, to keep all that other sort of negativity away.
Mm.
And that's his
Yeah.
boundary setting. So to use his agency and who he is as a person to embody this protective spirit
Yeah.
more and more. and
Yeah.
and then the next part I would say is to actually enjoy his life and to embody respect as well.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
How did I
Mm.
do there?
Good. Yeah. 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 Mm. So this illustration contains tangible, visual, and representative methods in the form of taping on a schematherapy base. So it involves working with both emotional, cognitive, and behavioral and relation-related intervention. I have a last picture here that I really like in the way of working to use both the cognitive side, the emotional side, to be emotionally evoked, and to do things with the figures on the table.
Mm-hmm. So I saw that you had the word gestalt in the last
Yeah,
slide, and it makes
yeah,
me think, so if I was a heart, what would that mean?
yeah.
And what would I do? And if I was a hand, how would I be interacting in the world and with others? What would I have my hand do? What would I do? And then how would I make meaning of
Yeah,
these actions? Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
And I guess practice is important too, isn't it? Like around boundary setting, you practiced
It
with.
is, it is, it is. Yeah, yeah, it really is. You have to practice. You have to, in this case, Benjamin needed someone who was standing up for him before he could evoke that boundaries for himself. And then he trained in different situation. And at this situation that I showed now, he was very proud to feel that he he could stand up for himself.
Mhm.
he could take care for himself.
And this is just a sort of after the fact question, but I'm just curious if you noticed him applying this new behavior in other contexts, such as maybe with his boss at work or with some friends.
Yeah,
Do you
he
see
did.
a transferability?
Yeah, yeah, he did. And he also was looking for a new job that suits him much better. So it in different areas you could see changes in him. Yeah.
Nice. Maybe just to have a final question. I'm interested in what you think about the relationship between guilt and responsibility, just acknowledging that in different countries people have different sense of what they need to do for family, how much they have to sort of give themselves over to the collective, or how much they can take care of the individual. And he felt a lot of guilt when he said, no, mother, I need
Mm,
this time to myself or whatever. So
mm.
how do you think that works? Where can we find, or where can Benjamin find a healthy balance between um, well, that sense of responsibility we feel for taking care of our loved ones while also putting
Mm,
boundaries to make sure that we don't get hurt.
mm, exactly. Yeah. And when he was putting out boundaries to his mother, she started later on reacting different to him. So that was helpful even for her.
Mm-hmm.
The dysfunctional patterns didn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm. They weren't serving
No,
the needs that she had. Yeah.
no,
Well, I think
exactly.
a very, very interesting process. It's very rich in how it sparks creativity and possibility and just also playfulness.
Mm.
Yeah. Great. So when will you use it next?
On Monday when I'm starting working again.
Okay, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you taking this last day of your holiday or soon ending holidays to share this process. And I look forward to us talking again sometime soon.
Me too. It was a pleasure. It was really my pleasure. Thank you.
Tack så mycket.
Tack.